Hello, welcome back to Two Girls, One Cut. We've got Abby and Tracy here tonight.
Hi
What's up?
guys.
What's up? What's up?
And then we've also got Seth in the background saying, Yo,
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 bearded
Seth.
dragon.
yo,
He's here.
bearded dragon.
That's right.
We were trying to get Seth's
Rap name.
rap
Rap
name
name.
out of him, and
It's
he's
got
not giving it up, so
no.
we've
There
decided it
has to
was
be some kind of cotton
bearded,
candy, bearded
bearded
dragon,
dragon.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Vanilla Flav.
Oh, I hate it here. Oh,
Back to
shoot.
our regularly
You
scheduled
scheduled program.
programming.
That's right.
Um, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, YouTube Music, Nighthawk Radio. You can also find us on Nighthawk Radio, or it's
Right.
nighthawk-radio.com.
Yep.
Nighthawk Radio on Facebook, Nighthawk Radio, all one word, on Rumble. You can also find us on Live 365. Um, if you want to watch live, you can find us every Thursday at 7 o'clock. We've also got some shows we're going to promote. In Dark Places comes on every Monday at 6 p.m. The Haunted Chronicles, they're doing some flashback shows every Friday at 8 until October 3rd, and they'll be starting with some new shows.
Awesome.
Did I miss
Lots of
anything?
new stuff. Lots
Did
of
it
new
all?
Unfiltered
stuff.
Nations, Sunday at 8. Unfiltered Nation, Sunday at 8.
Sunday at 8. So tonight we're going to be talking about Richard Cottingham, also known as the Times Square Ripper
The
and the
torso
Torso
killer.
Killer.
Yeah, the
Yes.
torso guy.
Yeah.
Um, he was definitely into mutilation. Um, his crimes happened between two states, mostly in New Jersey and New York. Um, and this happened
Some of the
towards the,
things are confusing because I was reading from like 67
that's what I was going to say, 67
to
to
to the
about
80s,
1980.
but then there was some
Some
speculation that
conflicting.
there was some stuff afterwards as well. So I think it could span a couple decades, really and
Yeah,
truthfully.
yeah. And I think he was arrested in 1981. So
Hmm.
it kind of,
But
I mean,
I
it makes you
think,
definitely wonder if there were more in 1981.
but
But
there was
they said the
also,
last
I
was
read some
1980.
stuff about
Hmm.
he kind of made some stuff happen in the 2000s, maybe from his jail cell that was a little questionable.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
some shady stuff going on with
I mean,
Mr.
I definitely
Cottingham.
think that there's some stuff that goes on in jail. You know,
Hmm.
people definitely make some things happen
Hmm.
from inside the bars for
And
sure.
Right.
I don't think this guy gets the credit, if you want to call it credit, that he deserves. And I hate
Agree.
to put it that way, but he was pretty brutal.
Hmm.
He
Well,
did
he
like
was a
to
nasty
mutilate.
human.
He dismembered and mutilated,
Hmm.
and he kind of falls through the cracks in the serial killer world. Um, he don't get the recognition that. God, I hate saying that. That's
I feel like that during that time frame, we know it now, but we didn't know it then. But that's when a lot of this was going on. And now historically, we're able to look back and see them as a group. And, there was a lot in that 1970s to say 1990s time frame that
Yeah.
really did some horrible stuff. And it's like you had to really one up the next guy. And,
yeah.
the names of Bundy and Dahmer and BTK, but names like Richard Cottingham, I didn't know very much about, but he
And
definitely did
even
some
like
some stuff.
Richard Burdella from a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
he wasn't very well known either, but his crimes happened in you know, the late 70s, early 80s. And I feel like there were
Hmm.
a lot of serial killers in the 70s and 80s.
At that time.
Hmm.
Agree. It's like there was nothing better to do.
Well, I
You
mean,
know, the
Well,
internet
and
hitchhiking.
hadn't
also
happened.
all of
There
these
was no
men,
social media.
yeah,
There was just a bunch of frustrated
yeah,
folks
And you think about it,
and
there
a
was no
lot of
cell
crime.
phones.
yeah.
Right.
So if
Well, also
somebody was,
DNA wasn't a thing.
yeah, but
Nope.
today, if somebody is attacked, you got 911 at your fingertips.
Big Brother.
You have
Yep. And Big
cameras,
Brother
doorbell
cameras
Yeah,
cameras.
everywhere.
and that's
Mhm.
right. You got all these cameras everywhere. But back then, you didn't have cell
It was a
phones. So
free
if
for
something
all.
happened, you had to either go find a payphone, and there was no
Hmm.
911 system back then.
Mhm.
Right. Or you had to just down home investigate it, you know?
Well, I mean,
So,
like say if somebody was attacked and you got away, you had to go find a payphone and dial an actual number, like an
right.
area code, a regular number. You couldn't just hit
Right.
911. The system was set up so much different back then. And but prostitutes and hitchhiking made serial killers, their targets were
Infamous.
very
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Hmm.
in the 70s and 80s, hitchhiking was normal. And then, of course,
Mhm.
prostitution's been around since the beginning of time, I think, just about. But, young girls, it wasn't uncommon to see young girls sticking their thumb out, trying to hitch a ride. And, if they'll get in a car with just about anybody, you don't know
Right.
who that guy is. And I
Well, and
think,
also, I feel like this was around the time that, like, women's rights were probably just starting to be established, and,
Absolutely.
you know, so these women kind of felt more independent, but then, they would go out and try to get a job, and nobody would hire them because they're a woman, so
Right.
they would resort to prostituting
What
because they
they
felt like
knew.
sure.
that's the only
And of
thing that.
course, drugs plays a big part in that and a lot of
Oh,
it
yeah,
too. Some ladies have to hook to, you know, support their habit.
to support
So
that. Yeah. But back to Richard Cottingham. He was born in 1946. Um, he was born in a neighborhood of the Bronx in New York, and he was the first of four children. He had a pretty relatively normal childhood.
Mhm.
Um, his family moved to New Jersey when he was a couple years old, and they stayed there for quite a while. But around that time, um, when they lived in New Jersey, he became a teenager and he started having a little bit of fascination with like bondage, pornography, and he says that the whole idea of bondage just kind of aroused him and it fascinated him as a young
okay,
adult.
so
Mhm.
who else
Mhm.
said that?
Mr. BTK,
BTK.
Dennis
100%.
Rader. That's right, Dennis
Hmm.
Rader.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Very
Um,
similar.
yes, yes. And he does kind of remind me a lot of BTK.
He actually
Hmm.
physically he has some features that kind of even look like him a little.
Kind of,
His
yeah, yeah.
In
his
his younger
stature,
years, yeah.
he's got that squint in his eyes a little bit like
Mhm.
Dennis Rader
Hmm.
had, but he has a coldness to him
Mhm.
like Rader has. To when he would,
It's very
he's
nonchalant.
yeah, when he stood up in the court and was telling the judge what he was doing, it was just like a normal conversation with him. It was very cold. Just
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, I got up,
Reading off a menu.
walked to the freezer,
Right.
got dinner. It was just that
Yeah.
nonchalant there. But this guy was kind of he had a lot of the same mannerisms.
Oh, yeah. And I kind of wonder if every serial killer or most serial killers don't have, you know, things in common like that. Because they don't have any conscience. They don't have anything telling them
Empathy.
that what they're doing is wrong, or
Right.
they don't have any empathy.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like something in them as they were growing up, what normal people have kind of manifest as you grow that this is wrong. Well, and it seems like that's missing.
Yeah.
in them.
Yeah. But he had a pretty close relationship with his mom growing up. But he says that he kind of had a hard time making friends, which also I feel like is pretty common. Um, I feel like serial killers in general, once they hit about the teen years, they feel like they don't really fit in. They don't
Yeah.
they're not able to find their people, you know. But
Well,
he went on and
strangely enough, in this case, he almost did find one of his people,
It's
well,
true.
yeah, yeah,
you
that's true.
know?
That's true. Yeah.
Could you imagine the chaos that them two could have created?
Right.
How,
So,
you know, when Rodney Ocala, the dating game killer,
Yeah.
and this
yeah,
guy hit their paths crossed.
shared
Yes.
an office space, didn't realize it, and here two of them pretty much in the same parts of their lives were, maybe active at the same time in the
That's,
Yeah.
same
yeah.
place.
How cool.
Working in the
Well, I don't
same
want to say
place.
cool, but think about that. I
But
mean,
for serial killer lovers, kind of cool
it's
and kind of
Such a small
terrifying
world.
because,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
small
So
world.
you have two serial killers working in the same office building,
Yeah,
probably, maybe even on the same floor.
Yeah.
right.
And, one guy's thinking what he did last night to whoever as he was hacking him up. And the other one's
Yeah,
thinking, I'm lined up for another one to not, that's just
yeah,
crazy, man. It's a small world, like you
They
said, Beth.
yeah,
totally could have teamed up together for sure.
Yeah.
right,
It would have been the
right.
dynamic duo.
Yeah. Um,
Messy.
he graduated high school. When he was in high school, he was in cross country. He also participated in the track team. So I'm assuming he was, pretty fit. After graduation, he started working for Metropolitan Life. His dad was the vice president of this insurance company. And he started working in the mailroom. And then he took some computer classes and um, he ended up being like a computer operator. Um, Fast forward a couple years, he decides he wants to move to Manhattan and he starts working for Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. Um, and he continued in that occupation until he was arrested. Um, but he also worked as a computer operator for Blue Cross Blue Shield in New York, and that's where you guys are talking about. He worked with Rodney Alcala um,
Mhm.
at the same time. Rodney Alcala at the time he from was it California?
Well,
California.
And so
Hmm.
he
well,
was kind of getting
he
a little bit
actually,
spooked.
his mom and him lived
Yes.
in New York
Yes.
Hmm.
and he moved to California.
And
So
he
the
was thinking like people are, moving in on me. I'm going to
Getting too
go
right,
over
close.
to New York,
that's right,
where my mom's at and work there for a little while.
right.
And just
And
happened to
so
pull up right beside of the torso killer and
you
not
know,
even
Yeah.
know
you
it.
could
Yeah.
have been at a red light and looked at each other and just kind of nodded, like, "What's up, man?" It's like
Okay.
one's going to kill and the other one's going the other way to kill. But
Right.
with Ocala though, they don't know, and they'll probably never know how many he killed. It could have been hundreds,
Right.
but his when he kind of went across the country. So,
Mhm.
he was in California for a good bit. He was in New York for a good bit, but what happened in between? How
Right.
did anything happen from California to New York on his way there, on his way back?
That's a lot of
So
miles.
that's a
Mhm.
lot of miles. That's right. So, yeah, but I think when he was living in New York, he probably worked with the insurance company and stuff.
Mhm. I think he also volunteered. It was some kind of girls' camp or something.
Imagine
Hmm.
that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he
And
used the
photographs.
photography
He was a
thing. Yeah.
photographer.
Mhm.
He would
Yep.
kind of talk about modeling and this and that. He's got connections and this and that, which he probably didn't. But yeah, that's how he would lure a lot of those young girls,
Yeah.
come out here to this place in the woods and we'll take pictures and send them off. And then they're never heard from again. But he
Right.
kept the pictures as mementos. So,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, we all know serial killers love to keep mementos, which I think we're going to get into that here in just a minute.
Mm-hmm. So Richard Cottingham, he ends up getting married in 1970. He has 3 children with his wife, 2 boys and a girl. And then in 1978, his wife decides she's going to file for divorce. She says that it was for abandonment and mental cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
And but then she ended up withdrawing this petition. Um,
Right.
I don't know if maybe he threatened her or, what had happened. She realized maybe I don't want to
You're
do
about to
this.
get hacked up.
Right, right. Um, but then she ended up, once he was arrested, she ended up going through with the divorce, of course. Um, so Richard Cottingham, he was arrested on some lesser charges throughout his killing spree, and one being drunk driving. He ended up having to pay some kind of fine. He was convicted of shoplifting, uh, another fine, slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
And then more into the 70s, he ended up being arrested for sodomy, robbery, sexual abuse. And this was a
Wow.
complaint from a prostitute. And I guess whenever they went to court, the prostitute never showed up, so the charges were dropped.
Nest. Yep.
Yeah. And then a couple years later, he was arrested again in New York for robbery and unlawful imprisonment of another prostitute. And once again, the victim, she didn't appear in court, and so the charges were dismissed,
There's
which
so many
kind of,
times I feel like that happens,
it
and
really
you
does.
think to
It falls through
yourself,
the
how
cracks.
many people could have been saved from
Hmm.
his crimes if they would have just shown up at their court date, if they would have just stood up and given their impact statements,
Yeah.
if they would have just gotten up and went and done the thing. How many people's lives changed just because of one person's decision to not get up and follow through with, their civil duty to
Right.
stand up and say what happened to them, because
So it
so
was
many people.
basically a missed opportunity that they
Hmm.
didn't even know existed
Did-
yet.
Not
right.
only once, but twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
But
Yeah.
also, I feel like if something like that happened now and so and so didn't show up at the court date, I don't feel like the charges would just get dismissed, dropped. You're free to go. I feel like a lot
Well,
of the times the state would pick it up. They would use the evidence that they have, um, like pictures or,
right.
the report, the statements, things like
And
that.
that would fall back on the prosecuting attorney. If he,
Yeah,
felt he had a case, then
right.
they would probably move forward.
It really just kind of shows how far even the justice system has come since then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And,
I agree.
even in other cases that don't even involve murder, a lot of times public opinion is guilty till proven innocent, and that's not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
You're supposed to be proved guilty,
Right.
not assumed guilty. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't mean to stray off a little bit, but like OJ.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a theory about that, and I may be one of the only people in the world that don't think OJ did it because the evidence doesn't fit. The glove
Yeah.
doesn't
There,
didn't
there there was
fit.
a lot.
There were footprints that weren't OJ size. But and if I don't know if you got, I know Abby probably does the big chase with
Hmm.
the
The
Bronco and this and that.
Broncos.
Yeah.
And there was a reason why OJ wanted to go home before he surrendered himself.
Mm-hmm.
The shoe size was smaller. The gloves were smaller.
Yep.
The one of the family members who was not questioned at all was the
Mm-hmm.
son.
Mm-hmm. Who had the same size foot that fit in that shoe and the
That's
same
exactly
size
right.
hand that fit in that glove.
So look at it
Mm-hmm.
this way. They all said OJ was, of course, look, I heard the tapes of him going nuts and stuff. OJ was a douchebag. I'm not defending him at all. But just because you're a douchebag don't mean you're a murderer.
Right. But it also doesn't mean that you didn't orchestrate it. It
That's right.
doesn't mean that you didn't have a hand in it. It's
So
all
if the glove didn't fit, the shoe size didn't fit.
right. You
OJ,
must have quit.
okay, so OJ was full of rage because I guess his wife or ex-wife was dating this new young guy. So
Mm-hmm.
did he kill him, or did the kid who basically said, I hate my mom and her new boyfriend?
Nice.
I mean, I'm just saying but it goes back to public opinion. Most people
Right.
said OJ was guilty. And he may be. I mean, I don't know. But, me being me, looking at the evidence being the shoe size smaller, the glove is smaller, there were witnesses that said OJ was miles away when this supposedly happened. But where was the son?
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. It's definitely a tough case. Very conflicting.
Yeah. The victims of this guy, I guess he would pick up these prostitutes, take them
Yes.
across to New Jersey into a hotel, have
Some
his
of
way
them.
with them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, have
Yeah.
his way with them and dismember them and shove them under the bed. Like nobody's going to look under the bed to find
Mhm.
out.
Yeah, he would cut their hands off,
Yep.
so that there wouldn't be any fingerprints. He would cut their head off so that they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have any dental records or, facial features for anybody to, um, recognize them by.
And a lot
Um,
of those body parts were never found. He took them with
yeah,
him
Yeah.
and they were never located again.
You
yeah.
know, I think if we're talking about or if I'm thinking about the right one, there was a young lady that they said that Cottingham took and killed and threw her in one of the rivers.
Two. Two ended up in the river.
But
That
they're
was
still, yeah, they're still looking for the one. Um,
mm-hmm.
and that's why they searched the river, because something about a bend in the river, and he was telling them, but they have searched that river and searched that river, and nothing is there that they can find.
I feel
But
like that with him, that was one of the things that he took the most pride in was the fact that he went out of his way to not replicate the time before so that, it would shake it up a little bit so that they
Mhm.
couldn't just be like, oh, that's the work of,
right,
the
This is
New
a
York
serial
Ripper.
killer. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he
didn't want
wasn't
he
anybody
leaving.
to.
he
He wasn't
claimed
leaving
that
his mark on anything.
Mhm.
right. He claimed that he pulled off 8 perfect murders and or whatever because they were all a little similar but different in the disposal or different in the end game. And he was definitely arrogant. He was definitely just full of himself in the way that he thought that he was superior um over everyone's thinking that um, that he just pulled off these perfect crimes and he ended up getting 975 years for them.
Surprise.
So and he's still in there, he's still alive, he's still in jail and will be until the day that he takes his last breath. But he went out of his way to try to confuse law enforcement, and only until he wanted to. did he start giving up, you know, details like a lot
Well,
of them do?
and I think he kind of got a little bit careless in the end.
Mm-hmm.
It was May 22nd, 1980. He picks up an 18-year-old prostitute, and um, he ends up taking her to the Quality Inn in New Jersey, and she she rolls onto her stomach, and he says, I'm going to give you a massage. Well, while she's laying on her stomach, he pulls out a knife, and he ends up handcuffing her. And then he begins to torture her. He nearly bites off one of her nipples. He really loved to mutilate women's
Mm-hmm.
breasts. Um, and I guess Odell, this is the prostitute. She later testified and said that he pretty much told her, "You have to take this." All of the other girls did. You are a whore too, and you have to be punished just like the others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then at one point, she was able to reach under the bed and she grabbed what she thought was a pistol. It was actually a fake gun that Cottingham would use to, scare people or to get them to do what he wanted. And she tried to shoot him. Little did she know it wasn't a real gun.
That sounds like a movie,
I
you know?
know,
Oh, horrible
doesn't it?
nightmare.
Oh man, that
Yes,
sounds like a
Like,
movie.
yes,
what's the
the
odds that
absolute
you reach
worst.
under there and what? It's a
You
gun.
think
Oh
about
It's
my
a
that though.
God.
gun? Yeah,
I'm
She
I'm gonna
safe.
shoot you, I'm gonna get
she
away.
and
And now you
Just
brief
kidding.
pissed
moment,
him off.
for
Right.
a brief moment in her mind, she thought she
Yeah.
had the upper hand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Surprise.
But
Like,
she starts screaming after she realizes this isn't a real gun. And I guess one of the motel employees heard her screaming. And so
mm-hmm.
they called the police, and the police come and they arrested him. Um, and so in the room they found a leather gag, two slave collars, a switchblade knife, a bunch of replica pistols, a stockpile of prescription pills. Um, and so they ended up charging him on that assault for, they charged him for kidnapping, attempted murder, aggravated assault, and there were a whole
Some
bunch of
prescription
different.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes, there was sodomy, rape, possession of a weapon, and then possession of the controlled substances that he had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he was of course arrested, and I guess during his trial, there were other victims that had come forward. There was a pregnant waitress that he met. She was on her way back to her apartment after, working at this bar as a waitress. And he said, "Hey, let me give you a ride home. You're heavily pregnant. Like, you shouldn't be walking in the dark. I'll take you home." So she of course trusted him, and he ends up forcing her to ingest some sleeping pills, and he ended up assaulting her. Um, he didn't kill her though. He ended up dumping her naked body at in
In a
some
parking lot.
ditch. I thought it
Yeah.
was a ditch,
I thought it
something
was
like
like in
that.
between a van and something else, and she kind of woke
Something.
up and was like, discombobulated and naked and pregnant and
Yeah, I think
uh,
I actually saw that a police officer, patrolman, he had found her.
model.
Yeah, in like what I'm
Mm,
imagining is like a sewer filled ditch.
right.
And they ended up taking her to the hospital, and she ended up surviving. But she testified against him, so he was also charged for her assault. Um, and then there was also another prostitute. There was another lady. She's a prostitute. he picks her up, and I guess he makes reservations with her, and then they go out on a date, and he ends up drugging her drink. And I believe she was pregnant too.
Mm,
I was listening to another podcast about him, and they actually said that she was drinking a screwdriver, which in my
mm.
mind is alcohol, but
Like,
she was
yeah.
so pregnant.
Orange
Hmm,
juice and vodka.
And
huh,
she
hmm,
was willingly drinking alcohol while she was pregnant, but he ends up um, spiking her drink, and um, he ends up torturing her, and he injured her face, her breast. He sodomized her. He completely mutilated her. Um, but I guess she ended up surviving. He also beat her with a water hose, and he tore her earrings out of her ears,
Ooh.
mhm,
which that just makes me cringe because I have lots
yeah.
of earrings. That's like one of my biggest fears. Um, Not to mention being kidnapped by a serial killer.
Right.
That should probably be a
And
biggest
beaten
fear, I
by a water
suppose.
hose. I mean,
Beaten by a
I
water
think that
hose.
sounds horrible
Yeah,
as well.
Ooh,
yeah,
that'd be rough, wouldn't it?
right. And then there
Mm,
was one other prostitute. She had been found beaten in a parking lot. I think that's who you were
there,
thinking of,
maybe I
Abby.
got them mixed up. Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe I got those mixed up.
And her attacker
Same with
had
mine.
bit her multiple times. He was really into biting,
So this
apparently.
guy's
Hmm.
a biter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definite
Yeah.
fighter.
Yep, she was drugged and brutally beaten, and she had several injuries, all over her body. But these women, they were able to pick him out of a lineup, and they were able to use their testimonies to convict him. And then I guess he claims that he started killing when he was a child,
13.
young
Yeah.
teen, teen, young adult. And he says that he could have killed up to 100 people, 100 women.
Hmm.
He often sought out, sex workers, women that were in their late teens, their mid 20s. And they say that he could have been linked to killings in Florida, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey, of course. He would often, approach these victims in bars. He would drug them, and then he would take them to a remote location, like the Quality Inn. And then he would bind, gag, torture, and stab them. And then most of the time, he would kill them by strangulation or asphyxiation.
Hmm.
And then he really liked to take trophies, like their jewelry, and then other personal items from the victims. Um, so also in that way, he kind of reminds me a lot of BTK.
Yeah.
He definitely liked to keep some trophies, and he loved to bind, torture, kill.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I said in
Yeah.
the beginning. This guy doesn't really get the credit that his name should be just about as big as the rest of them. But
Right.
he's not very well known.
Mhm.
Probably up in New York area and stuff. But what is it with serial killers and traveling? It seems like several of them. They're kind of ramblers and they travel around
Yeah.
the country. And
It's safe.
They want to keep from getting caught.
well, I heard a statistic one time. It said, being a former trucker, if you look at any profession that serial killers are prolific in, and
Hmm.
that's trucking,
Yeah.
there are more serial killer truckers than any other profession.
Makes sense. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely makes sense.
It's
I mean,
perfect.
you kill one today in Carolina, and 2 days later in Texas, you can do it again.
Yep.
Drop the
Yeah.
body wherever in between.
and you're expected to be on the road, you're expected to be in that truck, and you know, dip out for 15 or 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
it's hard to pin it
And
down, you know.
again, um, prostitution runs rampant in truck stops.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's,
Yep.
I don't think it's as bad now as it used to be, but back in the, say, late 90s, early 2000s, you couldn't park at a truck stop and get completely stopped before, a
That's
prostitute be
right.
knocking on your door.
Right.
Yeah.
And they would do it
Right.
all night long. And I mean, 2 or 3 times a night. And it's like, damn it, man, I'm trying to sleep. Leave me alone.
Right. It definitely was like shooting fish in a barrel, I'm sure, or it could have been, you know.
Oh, yeah.
If you
And
like travel and you like making money and you like killing people, I feel like that's the job for you.
they
Oh,
should
for
put that on the
sure.
brochure.
Yeah.
Were
I would
you a
bring them
serial
in.
killer, Tracy?
Oh, he didn't
I
answer.
mean, no.
Moving along, moving along. Um, so in New Jersey, he was convicted for the three non-fatal assaults of those three women. But he was also convicted of the murder of two other women. One being Marianne Carr. She was a 26-year-old X-ray technician,
Hmm.
and she was found between a parked van and a chain link fence.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
yeah, she was actually still wearing her white nurse's uniform. Um, they said that her shoes were missing though,
Right.
and she, I guess, from where he had kidnapped her and transported her, um, he transported her to the Quality Inn. Um, Once she was inside the Quality Inn, he beat her, he bit her, he slashed and raped her, and then he ended up strangling her with a ligature. And then he dumped her body in that parking lot. Um, and then, and I guess that wasn't too far from her apartment complex, too.
Right.
Um, she had lots of bruises on her wrists and ankles, and they also said that there were some, I guess, remnants of adhesive tape on her mouth.
Off your mouth. Yeah.
So he was convicted of her murder, and then there was another one in New Jersey. She was a prostitute named Valerie Ann Street, and she was found by a motel worker
Hmm.
at the Quality Inn, and they're all at the
Right.
Quality Inn.
Must have
It's a
had good
cheap
rates there or
sucker.
something.
Yeah. By the
Apparently.
hour or the
Um,
lifetime. I don't know.
I wonder if they had points then. You think he used his
Oh,
points?
Good day.
I bet that's probably why they came up with that. Is for
Probably.
people like Mr. Cottingham that was
Mhm.
a frequent user.
Yep. Well, he ended up using an alias to sign into the Quality Inn at this point, but I feel like at this point everybody should know him on a first name
Right.
basis,
Yeah, no joke.
He's there enough. But he ended up killing her, and he stuffed her body under the bed for housekeeping to find her. And I guess investigators discovered that she was handcuffed, and she had two ligature marks around her throat. And they had also determined that she had been gagged, and she had some white adhesive tape over her mouth as well. And she had some bite marks on her breasts, and her body, her head, um, and she also had some incisions along her chest as well. And they had also found a fingerprint that belonged to Cottingham um, on the handcuffs that were left behind. So they were able to link him to that pretty easily, I suppose. And then moving on to New York, he had lots more in New York. Um, he was convicted in the deaths of three other women. Um, the staff at a Travel Lodge Motor Inn, they made a call to the fire department that there was quite a bit of smoke inside of one of the rooms, and there was a "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging up outside the door.
Well,
He's laughing. He didn't
firemen,
want to be disturbed.
listen,
He didn't want the firemen to
it's
be
just a fire.
disturbed.
Nobody needs to come in here to don't
That's
disturb.
right. Everything's
Mind your
fine. Everything's
business.
fine.
Right.
Smells like chicken. It's okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Barbecue.
And barbecue chicken.
Stop it.
Smoked pork.
Yep. Mm.
He used the name Carl Wilson to sign into this little inn. And there were actually two female bodies discovered
Mm.
on two different beds from the fire department. Um, but prior to their deaths, the women, they were both, brutally murdered. Their bodies were burned. Um, both of these women, their hands had been severed,
Mhm.
and they were completely beheaded, and their missing body parts were never found. And I kind of wonder if these ladies weren't beheaded because he had been seen nearby with these women, and so he didn't want somebody to identify them and say, "Hey, I saw Mr. Cottingham with
Right.
this
Yeah.
With
woman or
so
this
so.
woman." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like his cat's
Yeah, because
got a
if
lot
you
of,
ain't got a head
yeah,
and they
but
Yeah.
can't prove it to you,
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
got a lot of hatred towards women.
Mhm.
yeah,
Don't know
but
what,
didn't have the reasoning that most of them do. That's the weird
yeah,
thing about him. He didn't have any traumatic events. He didn't have any weird relationships with his mother. He didn't
Right,
have
like,
yeah,
he didn't have any
anything.
childhood trauma. Like, where
No.
is this stemming
Where's
from?
this?
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. Because the hatred. When you
Oh, it's
bite
deep.
somebody, it's personal.
It's mad. Yeah,
Right.
it's mean.
Especially if you bite them, on their breast or whatever. That's a very personal part of the body, and
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's almost like uh, I have control. I'll do with you
Primal.
what I want to.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And you're a prostitute. You need to pay for what you do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then with the
And that's pretty
beating,
much what he told the one lady that, that got him caught. He said, "You're a whore, you're a prostitute, you're getting what you deserve."
yeah.
Right.
So without having any kind of childhood trauma with prostitutes or his mother or whatever, it's kind of like, where did
Why?
all this come from?
Yeah.
Right.
Because prostitutes are people too. I don't care what
Right.
anybody
Yeah.
says.
Yeah. They're
So
just trying to make a living like everybody else,
they just do
Hmm.
it
a different
in
way.
different ways.
Right.
I
Hmm.
mean,
Right.
but yeah, that's the biting thing. There's a difference between, and both of them are traumatic, but there's a difference between raping someone and then torturing and raping someone.
Yeah.
When you get into the torture to where you actually want to create physical pain to somebody, um,
Or mutilation. Like
yeah, I
he
mean,
Yeah.
literally removed the breasts
heads,
off of a woman, and or just he removed two breasts off of a woman and had them like literally sitting on the headboard of a bed
hanging
Yeah.
on his wall
when they
like
were
trophies.
discovered. Yeah.
But you know what? Who, if you think about that, I mean, Jack the Ripper
Like
did the same
why?
thing.
Yeah.
You
Why
know,
so hateful and so hateful, fuel filled hateful?
yeah. That's
And
really
here he is, I only watched, there was only one interrogation film that I watched on him, and it was about an hour and 10 minutes. And he was with the Bergen County detectives, and he was literally sitting, he looked like Santa Claus. He was white-headed, white beard, kind of jolly and chubby. And he was sitting at a table. They had a pizza and looked like a 2 liter of Diet 7 Up, and he was just sitting there with these two detectives who just wanted the information, some information. And he was just talking about it like he was ordering his lunch.
Mhm.
And one of the daughters of, I believe it was maybe the woman by the last name of Street. I can't remember whose
Mhm.
daughter it was, but befriended him, so to speak, in prison and would visit him and contact letters, write back and forth with him, and was able to get confessions to a lot of these things, including her mother's information, because he was just such a shitty person that, they had to pretty much drag that information out of him, and the child of one of his victims was one to do it and get confessions out of him.
It's crazy to me though. There's no way that I could go through something as brutal as that happening to one of my parents or even just, someone close to me.
Right.
Um,
You
and
wouldn't want
then
to know the details.
befriending. No, I wouldn't wanna know the details, and I definitely wouldn't want to befriend the person who murdered them and tortured them.
And listen to all of his recantations of all of his
Yeah.
crimes.
All of the other murders, yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing exactly what these victims' families are feeling.
Hmm.
There's no way. I mean, kudos to her,
Right.
but
Right. I couldn't, but
stronger than me, yeah.
right. Because it'd make you want
Um,
to reach out across the table and,
Kelly.
you know,
mhm,
give him a little
mhm.
taste of it.
Yeah, there'll
An
be
eye
no
for an
life in
eye.
prison. Your life in
Yeah,
Hmm.
prison ends today.
yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Um,
if this was Texas, he would already be dead.
oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the two ladies that were burned in the hotel room, I guess the autopsy showed that both of these women had been tortured and sexually assaulted for days before he had finally killed them. One of the women was an Iranian immigrant, and she worked as a prostitute. The other one, they never figured out who she was. They named her Manhattan Jane Doe.
And,
Mhm. Um, and then there was one other lady in New York. Um, Her name was Marianne Rayner, and she was found at um, Siebel Hotel in New York
mhm.
City, and investigators found that her attacker had slit her throat and removed both of her breasts. And that's she's the
Kind of
victim
same
that
MO.
he left them on the headboard of the bed.
Right.
And he also set her body on fire. I'm assuming to try to attempt to get rid of some evidence.
Right. And he also, one of his victims was also like a 13-year-old girl, a young girl, Jacqueline something I remember reading about. And it seemed to me like that she was strangled by a rosary chain that she had on. Like she had been at like her band practice after
Wow.
school and
That's a
Oh,
she
hell of a
that's
had
so
chain.
either
sad.
a rosary or she had like the little strap that held her instrument,
Yeah.
and that was what he used to strangle her with. And I think that's a different level,
Oh, for
whenever
sure.
Yeah.
you
When you involve
have someone that's,
kids,
hasn't even had a chance to know what life's about yet, and
right.
you're going
But
to just
again, I mean,
take their
we
light
go
away.
back to think about how easy it is to prey on somebody like that.
Hmm.
I think that's why you do see, you know, abductions of kids, young kids, and they'll find their body days later, weeks later, and it's usually a sexual assault with some kind of torture or tied up, and but again, it's the prostitutes are easy prey. Kids are easy
Right.
prey. Hitchhikers are
Right.
easy prey. And it's rare, in the case of BTK, Dennis Rader wasn't afraid to walk in your house. you know,
Right.
where most serial killers prey on victims that are very easy
Hmm.
as far as, no, who's going to look for a prostitute very hard,
Right.
but kids are easy prey too. I mean, here, your mom told me to pick you up and
Pick
take you
you up.
home, you know?
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, but when you involve kids in something like that, there's going to be a special hell for you.
Oh, for
And I
sure.
hope it begins in the penitentiary of your choice. Every day that you get a cactus or a
It's
pineapple or
what is it,
something
you,
barbed
you get
rammed up of your anus.
you get 3 meals a day, a roof over your head, and all the sex that you can handle.
Yep, I
Not
hope
the kind
that's
you
the
want,
case.
but the kind you get.
Right,
Mhm.
the kind you get. I do
Yeah.
hope that that's
Yeah.
the truth.
But yeah, when you involve kids like that, that's and Ocala was the same way. He was
Hmm.
caught with a young girl.
Mhm.
Um, but there's
Yeah.
again, it goes back to, in my mind, it's just easy prey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
and
and
he just got
also,
sloppy.
the younger the
Hmm.
younger they are, the more naive they are, the less
Sure,
they
Right.
know, you
sure.
know? I think she was the youngest of his victims, though. I think there was
Yep,
a
she was.
15-year-old, there was a
Hmm.
16-year-old, 13,
13 is just,
baby. It's a baby.
Yeah,
hmm.
and I'm not saying it's okay to ever do anything like that, but to do a child, say 9, 10 years old, to do those things, that's just special help is all that's going to be.
Mhm.
But when you get 17, 18, 19, it's not okay, but to me, that's more, I don't want to say understandable, because it's not understandable, but it's more, it would be different than being with, a 9-year old,
Right.
you know.
Well, and also, if it's a 17 or 18-year-old prostitute, which that's not okay either. I'm not making excuses because that's definitely not okay either. But it just kind of puts it into perspective. A 13-year-old child leaving band practice
Yeah,
Right.
on her way
Different.
home, it's different because she's innocent. Like, she
sure.
doesn't know anything about any of that.
Yeah.
That's not the lifestyle that she's living. That's not the lifestyle that she's chosen.
She just
So,
was easy prey. That's all that comes
yeah.
down to.
Yeah.
Easy prey.
Opportunism at that
Yep.
moment.
That's right.
Well, and he goes on to say that, um, you're a prostitute, you're a whore, you deserve this. What did the 13-year-old do to deserve that?
Right. Right.
Nothing. What was his excuse for that?
Right. He didn't comment on that
Mhm.
like he did with some of the other ones.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Because there is no excuse for it.
Right.
Now, was she mutilated too, or just dumped?
I'm pretty sure she was just dumped. I don't even know, honestly, if they said that she was sexually assaulted. I just remember her age stood out to me, and
Mhm.
the method of her death stood out to me, whether it was via the rosary chain or the strap from her
Right. Yeah.
instrument. Because I just thought, how jacked is that? That here you go to school one day, you're doing all the things you need to be doing as a 13-year-old baby, and you go to walk home. Maybe you missed the bus that day, and you go to walk home and you don't make it home because
Yeah.
some disgusting sicko decides, that you look like an easy piece of prey. It's just 13 years old. I mean,
She had been beaten and strangled either by the leather strap of her instrument or, the rosary. Um,
mhm,
and they said that police believed that the attack was sexually persuaded,
Yeah.
but I think
mhm,
they found that she was not raped. She wasn't sexually assaulted. But
right,
her clothes were in disarray. And he says that he was trying to persuade her into getting in the car. She resisted. She was making a scene, or he was afraid she would make a scene. So he
Right.
walks over to her and beats her and kills her and stuffs her in the
And
bushes.
just, yep.
That's his story.
Right. Mm.
Interesting. Mm.
I think I'd rather go out that way. I think I'd rather
Yeah,
go
oh,
out
yeah.
that way than be taken and tortured.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. But I hope that he gets tortured and taken out
most
literally every
definitely.
day. And I hope he has a long
Eternally.
life in
Yeah, his
prison and
Mhm.
lives to be 100. And looks like he rode it in on a horse every day that he walks to chow because of what he's done in his lifetime.
well, his
Yes.
So
day. I mean, we may
And
not see it,
there
but
are so many victims that
don't have
he has either
names.
admitted to
Hmm.
later on that he wasn't actually convicted for, um,
Hmm.
or just cases that have been linked to him because of DNA or fingerprints or
Hmm.
whatever. Um, and in a lot of these cases, they say, "Okay, we got our conviction. They're going to be in prison for life, so there's no sense in convicting him for any other murders."
Right.
But see, I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me. Like, yeah, they're already serving
Mhm.
time for these other
right,
victims, but not
right.
not the new
All
ones.
of them.
Well,
Yeah.
guys, that's another one in the books
That's
there.
it.
So
Quick hour.
another, another quick hour. So guys, remember nighthawk-radio.com. You can find us there, YouTube, Spotify, YouTube Music, and Facebook, all under Nighthawk Radio. Look at Rumble, Nighthawk Radio, one word. We also are on Live 365. Be sure to check out In Dark Places Sunday at 6, The Unfiltered Nation Sunday at 8, and the Flashback Friday with Jimmy Haunted, the Haunted Chronicles. So just keep that in mind, guys. So with
Share
that,
it.
ladies, another one is gone. Seth Boyd, take us home.
And we'll see you next week.
Oh yeah, check out Seth's Daily Podcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Shameless plug.
Yeah. Plug it.
Yeah, In Dark Places every Monday at 6 p.m. And also at Nighthawk Radio, we do not forget to hit the button. And we do shows by day, not 25 years. Everybody have a good night and God bless.